Good afternoon and welcome back to the Smite Pro League. Switched spots. We still got a good show. Tom Ballinger, Anatoly Alexeyev, and we're going to be bringing you our second half of the North American action today. Now, earlier, we were allowed to watch some of the teams go to work, seeing the defending world champions United actually fall to Luminosity.
Great performance, honestly. The first game, it was Oceans taking that MVP spot on the Soul, and then game number 2, Weekend playing a fantastic Arachne, being a part of, I think, 9 out of the 11 kills.
Yeah, pretty incredible stuff, but moving on to this one, a very exciting matchup as well. CLGaming welcome them into the scene. Jigz will be leading that squad, and then we'll see Splyce try to dance with them across the way. A very interesting roster there as well.
I'm expecting a lot of things out of this roster. Some formidable people here, players specifically. Divios making a return here in the solo lane because CycloneSpin says, all right, you can do it in the solo lane. I like the hunter role as well. He's done it before in previous seasons.
Now, we've seen teams pick up players that have been on hiatus before. Earlier last year, we watched the SKGaming team, or excuse me, a Fnatic team pick up Maniac after stepping away for a while. TheBest and Divios have both been on hiatus. Should be interesting watching them return. CycloneSpin and Homiefe, however, have been a staple of the Smite Pro League. These are the two players you're going to be able to watch on their individual cams, but this time around, they're playing different positions. Homie will retake his role in the jungle, but CycloneSpin, no longer a solo laner, he'll be in the hunter role.
That's right. We also saw his Season 4 stats there earlier on. Not the best compared to his Season 2 or his lifetime stats, but this team right here, CLG specifically, Homiefe leading the charge out of the jungle role, paired up with Hurriwind. You know, that's like a lot of love between these two players, especially once they first started playing together in Season 3 under CLGaming.
Homiefe has grown in so many different ways, and one of the biggest things that I've been harping on in my individual worlds has been how much different Season 5 is in juxtaposition to what we've seen in the past. And Homiefe, for my money, has always excelled when he's allowed to be the hard carry. You see him here playing the Ratatasker, a character that he just absolutely stomps with. Now, for a period of time, Totally, last year, the world shifted to these setup warrior jungles, and Homie got really quiet. I think for Season 5, it's a return to what he's used to, and people are going to have to be scared of the young Homie.
It's the playmaking opportunity here. Live or die by the jungle. We did see a lot of Odin coming out of Homiefe at the end of Season 4. He just didn't bring it to the table, but now with these assassins benefiting greatly from the jungle changes here, you know, the shortened respawn buff timers is very important to control the momentum of the game.
And the itemization as well. Here we see him on the Nemesis. Let me correct myself. Not the young Homie. This is the Iron Homie. Homiefe. This guy is going to be a big deal. On his team, though, surrounded by powerful players as well. Jigz is who I keep coming back to on this squad. Watching Jigz and Hurriwind, again, really just players that have grown. I think the CLG squad is a very, very powerful team this year.
A name you haven't even mentioned here on the two side laners, Snoopy and fineokay. I think that this team has a lot of talent behind them, a lot of formidable big names. Same thing can be said, though, about Splyce, and I think the second best of 3 set in North America is going to be a doozy.
fineokay might be one of my favorite newcomers to the league. Relative rookie status. He played a decent amount during last year, but fineokay has been one of the standout solo laners. Not only do I love the content that he's able to put out in and of himself, but when he does show up and perform on teams, he's one of the guys that just looks like he's been there for a long time. So I think the way he fits in with this squad is going to be very important. Though across the way, veteranship. I mentioned they might have been on a hiatus, but Divios and TheBest have been here since minute 1, and it's going to be tough to deal with them.
There's going to be a lot of chemistry for both teams, honestly. Who is going to come out on top? It's too early to tell here. I'm really excited to see how these picks and bans are going to go.
Let's just get started. CLG versus Splyce. CLG's first game here in the Smite Pro League, as well as Splyce. 2 brand new organizations to our league, actually. Very exciting. Now, if you guys are just joining us, this is our second day of Season 5. Yesterday, we said hello to Europe. Today, we're over in North America. These are best of threes. So this could be all over in just 2 games, or we're here for the marathon. We might just sit down for 3 in total. But starting things off, Splyce going to say no to the Morrigan.
And the reasoning behind this means that there's going to be a high priority jungle pick coming out of Splyce that they don't want CLGaming to also have with Morrigan.
I also think that Hurriwind exists.
True.
Hurriwind is... People don't... am I wrong in saying that people don't give Hurriwind his due?
I wouldn't say... Well, the way he started his career was being, the best substitute in the world for... not Luminosity Gaming, but Cloud9 when he was the
multi-role player.
The multi-role player. And I think people haven't really left that mindset for him. He's definitely proved to me, at least, that he's capable of being the best of the best. I think he definitely wears his heart on his sleeve. He definitely will put himself out there, and for a good reason as well. He is not a player to be taken lightly.
No surprise to see the Nemesis first selected overall here. Morgan and Athena banned out by Splyce. CLG says no to the Thoth guy and the Uller. Very standard bans here, just powerful characters in their own right. Nemesis, one of the most powerful characters in Season 5 by way of the itemization. Crusher and Heartseeker going to literally crush the opposition's hearts. Cerberus and Janus selected for CLG.
Now, we were talking about Hurriwind's God selection. Janus is definitely one of his preferred go-tos as well. A lot of mobility here already for CLG off of that one pick. Gives a lot of flexibility to whatever Homiefe wants to run.
Nuwa was recently changed, but just nudged. Not a gigantic buff. But again, talking about some of the oddities that come from players that have been on hiatus, TheBest has always loved this character. And TheBest is coming back and going to be playing Nuwa. Now, Nuwa, perhaps not as high on the power scale as the Soul or the Nemesis, but certainly tough to deal with in her own right.
Good lockdown potential between her passive, as long as she can root you in place, and then exploding those clay golems with the shining metal. It's difficult for a frontliner to really penetrate the backline and get into the thick of things when you have to worry about these clay golems in front of your face, which can also absorb some of your abilities if they're single target, or just potentially body block you from getting to where you want to go.
Also, side note, the ultimate, love it, gives you global vision.
Yes.
In a world where you have to worry about Janus dropships, knowing where the enemy team is certainly a big deal. Hou Yi, the final selection for CLG in the first round of picks. They say no to Cabrakan and are thinking about their second ban here, which will be the Sylvanas. So keeping an eye on the control-oriented characters, whereas Splyce putting their money against the damage dealers. Daji, a very powerful jungler of note, and Camazot's pretty much the same thing.
I was expecting more of a global pressure ban, specifically Ratatasker, but Camazot's definitely provides a huge amount of burst. Something that CLG can definitely rely on is this mobility with Janus. Go for the Ratatasker, and something that Homiefe is known for as well, or at least in yesteryear, is the Thor.
Well, the Kuzenbo is going to be the selection here, and I like this choice because CLG, Nemesis is already chosen, and that's going to be the jungler for Splyce. Unless you're going to see a solo rat, which actually is a relevant pick, you don't have to really worry too much about it. The Kuzenbo here, which one is a support, Cerberus or Kuzenbo?
It's hard to really tell, and I think this is why CLG is kind of waiting on this pick. They want to see the full exact lineup from Splyce before they're going to be able to change their picks right before the game launches. They're going to know that it's going to be the tier in the solo lane for Divios, a god that's always been just solid.
Yeah, and again, the guys, we haven't seen much tier lately, but we haven't seen much Divios lately either. So welcome back to both of those people. Bakasura picked in the jungle. We saw it last time it lost.
Yeah, with Scream playing it specifically. I think that this game with a Janus in the mid lane, it gives you a little bit more maneuverability to, escape once you do go all in.
Will the Baka be on top or on bottom today?
I think that the Baka is not going to be on top, but I think that CLG will.
Well, all 10 characters have been chosen. We're going to toss you over to Finch to bring you the action.
Tom, what is this crusade against Taco? She's here. Taco and Finch are here, Tom, and we're going to be bringing you, CLG going up against Splyce, and we saw some crazy picks just now. Bakasura didn't do so well earlier today, but maybe it'll do a little better for him here.
Seems as though there's a little bit of preference towards this assassin that we haven't seen a whole lot of in Smite in general, especially not in competitive play. A bit of a risky choice here, but the question is, can they actually make it work?
Yeah, and you heard Tole talking a little bit about how maybe paired with this Janus, it might do a little bit better for them. But we want you all to do better as well. Vote for us now. Who do you think is going to win this game at home? That vote should be there for y'all in that Mixer chat. That way we can see who you all think are going to take it. Taco, who do you think is going to take it?
It's a very interesting pairing the more that you think about it. I mean, you have the Kuzenbo, and the way that they're complementing this Kuzen is having that Bakasura. So kind of a mentality of not only trying to reflect the team damage back, but also looking to just have that Bakasura's true damage, maybe get a little bit more benefit out of those Butcher Blades that we didn't exactly see happen in the last set, but this is a completely different team, and Homiefe is a completely different player.
Homiefe is, and a strong player as well. One of those junglers that's always in the conversation for one of those top junglers, I feel like it'd be fair to say. Hurriwind as well. The CLG, the CLGaming roster, I feel like it has so much potential, Taco. Now it's going to be our first chance to see it in action. Can they take all that potential and make it relevant up against Splyce, a team of players that we all know are strong, but aren't always on the strongest teams?
Splyce has a nasty team comp, though, for this initial set. Having Nemesis, Nuwa, and Soul alone, you already know that there's going to be so much burst damage potential out of this roster. Positioning is going to be crucial for CLG if they don't want to find themselves just dead before they even have a second to respond.
And they're not just strong picks, Taco. These feel like picks that these players are so comfortable on. I mean, I know at this level, everyone's good on everything, but there's something to be said about Divios on tier. You know, something to be said about TheBest on Nuwa. Like, those are gods that we just see them, they could play in their sleep with their eyes closed. So I expect to see good things from the Splyce roster, but of course, you got to take them in the game and put them into action.
All that Divios really needs to keep an eye out for is to not get pushed into that T1 tower. We've been seeing a lot of Kuzenbo solos at competitive level, at least in the SML, where they opt for that sumo slam early on, trying to put their opposition into the tower. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, Divios should be on the lookout for it.
And this is something else that we've been seeing a little bit more of. Take a look at where fineokay is. He's hanging out at the blue buff of his opponent, trying to use that Nene Kappa to strip this one away. Cyno not going to be able to rotate over to this in time. We'll certainly get a chance to see the Nene Kappa doing work. Will he be able to get this one? He is, and he goes straight for the teleport to get himself out of danger, too. And by the time he'll likely need that teleport again, we'll be back up. So I think this blue buff steal is going to go unpunished. What are your thoughts here, Taco?
Well, it's not going to be punished initially, but he's still going to end up losing his own blue buff, which is probably the primary reason why he ends up starting on the enemies. When you know that you're most likely going to be losing your own buff, you might as well try to go for that solo invade. At level 1, there's not typically going to be too much punish available where fineokay couldn't escape.
And in knowing that Bakasura, that Homiefe's plan was to be down on the opposite side of the jungle, then it kind of makes even more sense. Come down here and get my blue buff where they won't be suspecting and I don't have to get contested as much since my jungler won't be here to help me out. So I think that play works out well for fineokay over there in the solo lane. We'll keep an eye on it, see how that one keeps panning out. Over here on the duo lane side, though, CycloneSpin and Aror trying to go up against Jigz and Snoopy.
And we haven't talked about this too much either, but CycloneSpin with a role swap into the Hunter role now, filling that position. And this is a guy who made his name in the solo, traditionally from those AFK days that Weekend was just talking about. And for him to be playing not only with a completely different roster, but also just a different role entirely, that's a rough transition to make when you're going up against a member like Snoopy, who's been playing this role for so long.
Yeah, it's Snoopy and Jigz as well. I mean, another player who's very familiar with this role. So we'll see how well he and Aror can get back. So far, though, they are feeling the pressure of the Hou Yi Cerberus. Yeah, that ricochet put a little bit of fear there into CycloneSpin, and we've seen a lot more Cerberus lately. It feels like early game, he just does so much damage. That first ability ticking over 7 times does have the potential to stun early on as well. It's tough to lane against him.
And as the game progresses, too, having to constantly worry about that protection shred that Cerberus can provide is going to be a really important asset, considering that there is a solid amount of damage already between Homie, Snoopy, and Hurriwind. Even the Janus on Stable Vortexes can start really chunking away at gods. So it's all about taking it easy during the start, really allowing your gods to get online. Aror and Cyclone seem to be aware of the fact that they're not going to get the initial pressure, and that's perfectly fine. The big thing here is looking to try and defend these buffs after they've respawned.
And Homiefe is already on his way to the red buff, so even though they're going to have this looks like a fight over the purple buff, the red buff is going to go down without any kind of contest as TheBest, or rather Hurriwind, was able to rotate over here and TheBest could not. Blue buff was, we did see Cyno on that earlier, so it looks like now they're turning their attention towards trying to take it away from fineokay as well. So across the map, it's kind of balancing out a little bit between fineokay, who's getting pressure on him, and then where they're able to get the pressure on the order side.
Cyno and Homiefe have pretty much swapped roles, and Divine Judgment is going to come out. Unfortunately, it's against the Janus. Hurriwind going to have no issues whatsoever, portaling back underneath his T1 tower.
Yeah, not feeling the pressure to use any kind of relics or anything. Smart to stay calm and just walk right through that wall as Janus love to do. Hurriwind is in a good spot here, and now Cyno going to have to wait a little bit of time before he's able to, you know, make that big initiation again. He did go for the blink right away, though, which can help speed up that Nemesis in the early game.
Nemesis has so much potential whenever you have this relic, because the blink means that you don't have to invest your own dash to get right into the mix of things. You can always afford to buy yourself those couple extra seconds of time, really get it together, and it's almost impossible to naturally react to that Nemesis ultimate.
Nemesis ultimate is difficult to try and respond to, especially when, like you said, when you blink and they're right in your face right away. It can be difficult. Again, though, CycloneSpin and Aror kind of happy just to stand at tower line and let Snoopy and Jigz push that wave there into them. We've seen Soul be dominant today, won both the games that she was in. Technically, 100% win rate for Soul today. I mean, she's looking good, so can CycloneSpin keep that going?
And, I mean, there's not really too much concern, though, for CycloneSpin and Aror. One of the benefits of Season 5 and the new map is that you don't lose gold entirely if those creeps do end up going underneath and being hit by your tower. You still get about 4 gold per minion once they're hit by that tower shot, so you're not losing too much, really, and XP is probably the most important part. They already know that their red buff is being invaded off cooldown. They're not really risking trying to contest their red and purple buffs, although they're probably hurting a little bit for that experience. Better to play it safe than sorry, take that initial early loss, and look to make up for it in the mid to late.
Yeah, this is where the real problem could end up coming from them. You're right, the lane minions coming into the tower line is not as important. It's if their buffs continue to get stripped away from them all game. Again, that red buff taken, and this time they're able to be there on time, our CLG, for the purple buff as well. That's experience that Snoopy's going to be getting, and the buff itself, of course, that just not going to be available to Cyclone.
If anything, this is probably in favor of CLG, simply because of the fact that, sure, fineokay is feeling the repercussions of not having any jungle farm on the solo side of the map, but duo is where a lot of the plays and action tend to take off, and for Cyno to be committing to farming out the opposite side of the map, it can be really difficult for him to make it over in time with the map being so much bigger now. So if Homiefe gets the jump on this duo lane, Splyce might have to play it pretty far back.
Yeah, and you mentioned too that fineokay might be a little bit far behind. I mean, for the Kuzenbo, he's staying relevant. I don't know if it'll be that big a deal as long as he's able to get that reflect off, get his ultimate out there too, and be disruptive in those team fights. He still pushes. I think we'll still see some relevance out of fineokay. So I agree with you. I don't think this is as punishing as it could be. Cyno, though, is sticking around. They've sort of committed to sticking around here and trying to create problems for fineokay. Now moving a little bit more into the enemy jungle is going to be Cyno.
Let's be real, though. There's no way that Cyno takes any chances with losing his speed buff to the Bakasura.
No, that is one of the absolute last things that you want to happen. Have him coming down there and have that timer, because then it's hard to contest him if you're both there at the same time with that secure that he has with the eat minion. So instead, making sure that he gets his right on cooldown. I like that as well. I want to talk to you a little bit, though, Taco, about this Nuwa going up against this Janus pick here in the mid lane. We know how strong Janus is right now. Can Nuwa keep up?
Nuwa can most certainly keep up. If anything, Nuwa might have the advantage once the mid-game starts to really break out. One of the benefits of Nuwa is not only having those minions stand in front of you, but the stun, the roots off the auto attacks are fantastic. But more importantly, that ultimate, it's practically unavoidable. Whether you want to Aegis it or not, you're going to have to make that commitment. Speaking of commitment, CLG, they're not hesitating whatsoever. This Gold Fury is their first target.
No, this is a firm commitment from CLG onto that Gold Fury, and it is gone in the blink of an eye. They committed the Sunbreaker on top of it, and that was all that they needed to shred it. I was going to say that they stole that red buff away, but that's not even worth mentioning. That is their red buff now. They have 2 of them, one on the Order side, one on the Chaos side, along with that Gold Fury now in their favor.
And poor CycloneSpin unintentionally getting frozen out of his lane. Well, I shouldn't say unintentionally, because he wants to push up. He just knows that CLG is lurking in that jungle. Baka and Hou Yi were just right around the corner, although they didn't choose to aggress just then. Snoopy and Jigz are playing it smart. They're not letting Cyclone get any of this farm.
And this is frustrating too. If you're the sole player, there's not really much you can do unless someone comes over and just kind of relieves some of this pressure for you. This time though, they are willing to back up with Terra coming over, with Cyno in the jungle as well. So eventually able to get to that farm, but. This is what happens when there's Homiefe, when there's a Bakasura in your jungle for 8 minutes in a row. You know, you don't feel comfortable stepping up.
Unfortunately enough for Splyce, they are just going to have to sit and wait, though. Not really much that they can do at the moment. They really just need to wait for their itemization to come online, for that Nuwa ultimate to really be a great telling factor for where exactly they should be. Speaking of which, Divios trying to ult away from danger right now.
Divios might indeed be in trouble. The jump comes in from Homiefe. There comes the ultimate as well. The heal comes out to keep him alive, and he ends up falling to the tower shot. Divios gets first blood, surviving the gank, and heals back up. He's the healthiest member of the fight so far, and sends them both on their way. Through Space and Time was used too.
Through Space and Time was used, but it did not connect, and that's the primary reason why Divios was able to stay alive. Those Baka minions off the ultimate working against Homiefe there.
Yeah, he healed.
He just got such a massive heal, a tier that would have normally been on the verge of death, just able to get right out.
CycloneSpin's ultimate doesn't get to do much on Hurriwind, and unfortunately though he does run right into the lockdown from TheBest, hits the stun with those clay soldiers, as well as, you mentioned earlier, off her passive. She's able to hit that root with just an auto attack, so she gets that to get some good damage onto Hurriwind, but big plays out of Divios. If you had any wondering if Divios still had it, if Divios could still hang over there in the solo lane, well, there's your answer, surviving that two-man gank and getting first blood.
The best part about Divios coming back in is the roster that he's coming with. It's TheBest and Aror. These are two people that he's already got prior team history with. So it's no question in my mind whether or not those three players already make a great triangle of synergy, and that kind of just extends on over, I feel, to Cyclone and Cyno. Those are kind of the newer members to this initial comp, and I really think that their playstyles could suit that of Divios and Best very well.
Yeah, being able to have those playstyles synergize is so important, because these are some big personalities, I think, is what I would say for Splyce. I think that's fair. Divios, I mean, Aror, TheBest, CycloneSpin, obviously, too. I mean, these are some very strong players, and when they're able to all work together, be moving on the same page, it can be strong. It's also strong over here for Jigz and for Snoopy. Very low as CycloneSpin manages to avoid the Sunbreaker and live through the gank. Now the new wall ultimate's coming out, too, to provide some additional damage, and Snoopy and Jigz can no longer press forward.
Unfortunate for Snoopy, he just placed that ultimate a little bit too far into the tower line, kind of expecting CycloneSpin to fall back a little bit further. Would have been great to catch him in that slow, but just didn't have enough time. The ricochet wasn't yet off of cooldown, and not really willing to risk that tower dive yet again after seeing how unsuccessful it was in the solo lane.
The first tower of the game comes tumbling down over here in solo lane. No big surprises. Divios and Cyno have kind of invested a lot of energy onto the solo side of the map, and we're seeing that work out for them. Divios level 13, while fineokay is only level 10. One of the most, really one of the only significant leads in the game right now is over there in that solo lane. How well Divios can bring that out is going to be important, as trying to come over and harass that speed buff a little bit. Good thing that TheBest was there.
Butcher Blades were procced, but Homie just wasn't able to connect with that initial auto attack. Might have been able to aggress Best a little bit further had he done so. He does have Hasten Katana and the Talaria boots, so mobility isn't in question right now for the Bakasura.
No, and not only is it not in question, there's an exclamation point at the end of mobility for him. He's going to be zooming if he lands an auto attack on you, and hard pressed you would be to try and get away. Speaking of those starts, this is something that we've been seeing a little bit more of. Boots coming out from Snoopy, but then into the Devil Glove. So he has those going now, and looks like he's going to be trying to go into Crusher, which he's seeing a little bit more of. So we can see that these builds there's still some variety there left in these builds right now, and I like what we're seeing.
It could anticipate the Crusher. It's mostly the fact that it has a 20% attack speed as part of the item. So you get a little bit of pen, you get your attack speed that's really awesome for hunters, and on top of that, the bonus damage to abilities on a god like Hou Yi, that is exactly the kind of item that you want to be prioritizing in your build.
Yeah, that just gives basically everything a hunter could want in that item. That's why it's been something that's been prioritized a lot here lately. It just fits right into those builds. When crit's not really the option, this makes that like attack speed pen build work out very well for him. Devourer's Gauntlets aren't picked up as much, I guess I would say, lately. It's something that definitely can still work if you don't work with Transcendence as much. Like for Hou Yi, this is going to work for him. So that's the path Snoopy's going to take this game. We'll see how it ends up working out for him.
And it seems as though Atalantis Bow is actually going to be the next item that Bakasura is trying to go for here. Really,
My dude wants to go fast.
He's trying to go really fast right now. It's almost a similar feeling to that of the old Fatalis, especially when you already have Fatalis because he's a melee god. So it's going to be really hard for Splyce members to try and evade this Bakasura once he gets going. If anything, they need to make sure that they are grouped to try and CC Homiefe as quickly as possible, really just ensuring that he's not dropping one of their carries before the fight could even break out.
But even if he can't stick to them, Taco, I mean, who's the ideal target for him? I mean, Cyno with the dash and the shield, TheBest can go up into the sky and even be invisible, and the Disapparate on Soul. I mean, who's he really looking for as the team fight breaks out and through space and time comes through?
Well, it seems as though they found exactly who they're looking for. They want Snoopy, but they're not going to be able to find him just yet. Even with all of that mobility off the Terra's blessing, it's still just not enough. Gold Fury is going to get pulled, though, by Splyce, really trying to take advantage of the situation.
Splyce were able to secure that Gold Fury as well. Homiefe was there, but there really wasn't a way for him to get in, so Splyce recognized that CLG had to back up, and as soon as they do, they take their own Gold Fury and swing that gold lead back a little bit in their favor. Looks like about 1,000 gold that they've got to their name here. And again, we're 14 and a half minutes in here, Taco. Only one kill so far. It's been very safe play. No one's been able to really lock anyone down just yet.
Been a very passive game from these two teams. I think the main thing is that even though they've all been around each other for quite some time in the competitive scene, they're still just trying to get an initial feel for this new map and new meta. It's still not entirely figured out. I think a lot of teams are going through a learning process from competitive play, and sometimes it's going to work, sometimes you're going to get burned for it, but it feels as though CLG really took a massive risk on this Bakasura pick, and you just brought it up. There's not really any excellent targets for him to try and go on.
No, not against this composition. It's kind of tough for this Bakasura to really hunt anyone down as Pyromancer gets pulled over here by Splyce, and I don't think anyone really recognizes that this one's happening, so very likely they'll be able to pull this one for free. But this is why I'm glad we're doing those player interviews, Taco. Remember what Weekend said? He said that they felt like they found themselves. They've been grinding it out, and they knew what their identity was. This play, and certainly I'm not in their comms, I don't know, but maybe they aren't so sure what they want their identity to be here in this game, as they want to make sure that they don't give anything away for free.
Speaking of which, Homiefe going to use his ultimate, get that CC immunity, and finally able to connect onto Aror, being the first response kill from CLG.
Inside, the sun's just too hot. Homiefe ends up getting that kill. That's going to help him out a lot. He has been even with Cyno here so far, so this might be the catalyst that lets him get going. But again, that Pyromancer was taken down for free, so you take one thing over there in duo and something else happens over here in solo lane. That's just this balancing act that we're seeing here in Smite.
Smite is an objective-based game, though. Speaking of which, Cyno making quick work of Snoopy. Doesn't have anything, though, to try and get away from this Bakasura. Thankfully, CycloneSpin able to back him up with that stellar burst.
Yeah, but we saw what that build could do. If there was not a soul there, I don't know if Cyno could have made it out of that one. Homiefe was happy to just keep chunking at him, so that's kind of the idea. Y'all got to see it there. Luckily, though, as long as they're there to peel for each other and get them to those abilities you talked about earlier that makes them so safe, I think they'll be okay.
Just unlucky, really, if you're Snoopy, getting caught out there right after finding a kill onto the support. Normally, you might play a little bit more aggressively in the duo lane. Wasn't expecting to be met by the Bakasura or the Nemesis that quickly.
Well, we got something fun here to talk about. Might be some trouble here for fineokay, actually. Has Thorns going. The Reflect as well. Going to use that Nene Kappa to force Cyno out, and he's going to be okay, actually able to get that Cyno off of him. But the Soul Gem being picked up here for Hurriwind, that's one of those mage items that was changed recently and is able to add a little bit of extra damage into the builds.
For anybody who's wondering what exactly a Soul Gem does, just imagine it as the magical Heart Seeker. It's a great item for mages looking to get that all-in burst possibility, and for a god like Janus, you can proc it quite often. You're always throwing out those unstable vortexes. You tend to prioritize cooldown reduction in your build, and for a guy like Hurriwind, he's just going to be looking to spam his Unstable Vortex as much as possible, really just keep those stacks going, because on the 5th one, that additional boost of bonus damage really can change the pacing of a team fight.
Yeah, I think we saw an additional 40%. I mean, that is not a little amount. That's a lot that can be added onto that. So we're going to see how well Hurriwind can manage those stacks. Going up into the air, this is what I was talking about how safe Nuwa can be through space and time, ends up not hitting anyone. The fight continues on. Ultra comes out, and Homiefe gets deleted. Cyno going to get credit for that one, and rightfully so. Charging through the suns are Splyce to look for more blood.
They're trying to chase it. They had the Terra's Blessing. The effects have now worn off, but it looks as though Splyce isn't done just yet. Hurriwind trying to get some poke potential through that Unstable Vortex. It seems as though Jigz could be the next target to mark. Divios with a great push out, taking him away from the safety of his T1 tower.
And gonna keep going in. Divios is level 17, and he knows it. He's not afraid to lead the charge for his team. There's an Unstable Vortex coming through the team fight as well, hitting in the backside, but their focus is on the tower, disrupting and pushing them back. Good ultimate there from fineokay to keep the tower going, but for how long, as Splyce are ready to re-engage.
That was beautiful timing from fineokay, just making sure that CycloneSpin couldn't get that passive auto attacks off onto the T1 tower. It's gonna end up falling either way, and looks as though Jigz might go with it.
Jigz does end up falling, Kim, just a little bit too hard there. The portal is enough to lock down at least for a second. Divios, but they didn't have enough damage to bring the tanky tier down. CLGaming gonna look for something back after having their tier 1 tower kind of forcibly stripped away. Splyce really forced that fight.
CLG just, it seems as though they want to try and turn the tables onto Splyce, but Splyce just had such a great disengage. The fact that they were able to find the T1 tower and then eliminate Jigz in the process has opened up a lot more map pressure for them, although they did need a couple of their members to back. It's going to be Cyno trying to prevent this Gold Fury from happening.
Snoopy is already very low. He's going to have to get out of here, but goal accomplished as the Gold Fury had to be dropped. Through space and time is committed one more time by Hurriwind just to try and get the rest of the team there, but Splyce are going to pull this Gold Fury again, and Aror's keeping people busy on the back end. Now fineokay finally is coming into this one, but Hurriwind doesn't have through space and time to contest, and Splyce take the Gold Fury yet again. Now fineokay is surrounded by 5 members looking for the push, can't get it, and Splyce get out clean.
CLG just invested so much trying to find a counter-kill potential to Cyno for deterring the Gold Fury from happening that they just didn't have anything to help themselves with defending Splyce from pulling the Gold Fury themselves. Another free objective pretty much for Splyce. Got to be feeling really good about these engagements.
Yeah, their objective calls have been great so far. Splyce now about 3,000 gold or so they're able to get into the lead. 4-1 now in the kills as well. And we're 20 minutes in, and there's only been 5 kills so far. This has been about people who are out of position getting locked down and objectives here so far in this game.
The fact that Cyno could walk up to 3 members from CLG on that Gold Fury, take Snoopy down to 10% health, and still get out alive with more than half of his HP remaining is the main reason why Splyce are able to just pull that Gold Fury and siege it, no problem whatsoever. Even with fineokay jumping in the way, it's still just a Kuzenbo. Kuzenbo with Thorns, you just don't attack. You wait for it to end, and then you go in. And fineokay is probably starting to realize now the Splyce are just baiting these actives and these ultimates so incredibly well.
Yeah, sitting at 0-0-0 is fineokay. He really just hasn't gotten a chance to be a part of much of anything for CLG. To be fair, they only have 1 kill, so not really anyone has gotten to be a part of much for them yet, but as you said, when he uses that Reflect and those Thorns, you can kind of just step away from him. But for me, that team fight felt a little bit disjointed. I mean, the through space and time came through, didn't really hit much, and they were chasing Aror on the back end of the team fights and worrying about the objective. I just don't know if they're all on the same page. When we saw Splyce go all in on that Gold Fury, and they're going all in on Snoopy, he's gone already.
We've seen this one a few times before. As a Hou Yi, you don't have that CC immune ult. Even if you try to drop an ult on top of yourself, it's only going to kill you faster against a Nemesis. Divios on the other side of the map doing his own plays as well. Getting a nice Fearless there onto Homiefe and fineokay, and he's still pretty much full health.
Yeah, he's having no problems over there. Is Divios, man. 1-0-1, having a good time. Having a better time now they got the Pyromancer in their corner. I believe that was just taken away by the boys of Splyce, and they're not done. They want to go for the Fire Giant, and this looks like a good call to me. No one is around. Hurriwind does not have through space and time, one of the best abilities to try and contest an objective. This isn't going particularly quickly, but if no one's going to come to it, then they can take as long as they want. Taco, I think this Fire Giant's free.
There's nobody on the map, but CLG is elsewhere. fineokay and Homiefe backing right in front of Divios' face opens up the opportunity for Splyce to just punish their passive play. And for CLG, it's like they were looking for something onto Divios. They fall back because they recognize they're not going to find a kill onto this level 19 tier, but to back at the same time when there is still a large objective like Fire Giant on the map, and for a team composed of a Nemesis and Nuwa to just be left to their own things. It's just incredible that they would get away with that. It wasn't a quick FG. That's not a fast pull. It's not a fast kill. It's just incredible that CLG didn't happen to catch them on it.
Taco, the god compositions are one thing, but the players on here, Snoopy, Hurriwind, Homiefe, these are not rookies. These are veterans who know that they have to keep vision and understanding of who's on these big objectives, and that they cannot just go down for free. That one does end up getting taken away by Splyce. Now they have a chance to really open up this lead when they start adding the global gold from these towers into the pockets of the entire team, and they're going to push onto this left side Phoenix. It looks like they have a minion wave here with them. They have Nuwa and Hercules soldiers. They certainly could make this push, but there comes the blink in from the Cerberus. Doesn't pull anyone, but does get some relics on cooldown, controlled into the wall by Divios, and already brought down to half health. Unstable Vortex comes to the team fight. Splyce didn't like what they saw, and they're backing up.
They still have a couple of T2 towers that they can siege, and then they'll have the free backs to base. Buy after acquiring all of that gold. Always really important to get all the itemization online, although most of their members are approaching that 5th, 6th item slot, which is a pretty scary place for CLG to have to acknowledge.
Tier 2 towers already at half health. They're showing some presence here from CLG, but this isn't a full defense that they're making. They're realizing they can't really fight into this. They're giving it up, finding some poke over the wall. Then Unstable Vortex is hurting and helping him get that soul gem online. Looks like that should be ready for him next time he goes to swing for it. So they're looking for their poke, but not really putting up an actual set defense yet.
A lot of teams in Season 5 have been trying to look more towards these Phoenix defenses because of how much more difficult sieging is in Season 5 in general, but even looking at CLG's draft, they don't have the greatest team comp for trying to prevent Splyce just hunting down those Phoenixes anyway. You've got the Nuwa minions that can serve as a great part of just eating up some of those initial Phoenix shots, and then you also have a Soul. And Soul is just one of the best gods in the game for destroying these structures. So it'll be really difficult, I think, for CLG to continue to hold on to their Phoenixes for much longer. Splyce is hungry for this first win.
They did get that Gold Fury to go along with those Tier 2 towers, so only the Tier 2 tower in solo remains, as Splyce get to enjoy a nearly 8,000 gold lead that they have in their favor. They're getting way out in front. And you mentioned it. I mean, we are approaching those full builds, but they're not done just yet. Still a lot of blessings that are on the roster, that are on the item slots for Splyce. Still some 5th item slots that haven't finished, like for Aror as well. So this gold lead still very real right now, and CLG will be feeling it.
What's crazy to think about is that at 14.5 minutes, this was a 1-kill game.
Yeah.
There was absolutely nothing happening, and it was relatively even between both of these teams. And then Splyce just took off out of nowhere. The moment that they recognized they were pressuring the advantages in these team fights, they just kept them coming. They were constantly forcing CLG to use that Janus ultimate as a defensive ultimate rather than an engaging sort of ult. And because of that, Splyce just knows that CLG couldn't match their mobility with the Terra's Blessing. It's just been gas pedal composition against CLG trying to disengage with these Janus portals, but it isn't enough.
They have not been able to hang with them in the fights, but that hasn't even really been the big problem for them. I feel like it's been just not good map control, or map awareness rather. I mean, there haven't really been fights over some of these. The Fire Giant went down for free. We saw Pyromancer go down for free. I mean, now this gold leads to the point where it is going to be hard for CLG to fight in, but like you said, back when it was even, I mean, they could have showed up and fought.
They could have showed up and fought, but they just didn't have the vision.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. To be fair, in hindsight, it's always 2020.
Yeah.
And when you're in the heat of the moment, it can be pretty easy, actually, to just overlook something as simple as a Fire Giant at 20 minutes. You're not accustomed to seeing FG go down at 20 minutes, especially when one team doesn't have a particularly large lead. It's not like this was a 10K blowout since the 7-minute mark by any means. It's just been Splyce taking advantage of the situation.
They're trying to take advantage of Divios over here in this dual lane. He's going up against 5 members and does eventually fall, even with a little bit of that help from TheBest. It just wasn't enough, but they made the trade. They got the Pyromancer, and now they're going for the Tier 2 tower, or the rest of CLG, while Splyce are starting up the Fire Giant. They've got CycloneSpin here. He can do it, but they're forcing them back with it. But they don't know. They're all backing. All of CLG are backing, and all of Splyce are backing. No one's going to get anything.
Splyce just expects that CLG is going to keep sieging when they have 5 members strong there in the dual lane. They didn't have any creeps alive either, so no minion waves to tell them whether or not that team is still hanging out there and looking to siege their Phoenix. And in a 4v5 situation, they just did not want to risk being caught off guard.
Wow, that was like 2 ships passing in the night, and I think that kind of favors CLG in that case because they were about to drop the Fire Giant, and that was going to go away for free, so instead they back, and Splyce are the ones who really don't get anything. CLG did take the tier 2 tower over there in that dual lane as well, and now they can come establish some position for themselves around this Fire Giant pit.
They still need to be careful, though. Divios does have his teleport available, and if he upgrades it, he can choose to TP in onto one of those wards, so he'll be a part of that fight in no time whatsoever. And again, it seems as though CLG would much rather just see what Splyce does and look to respond. They haven't had too much luck so far just trying to get things going themselves. Might just be better off looking for the fight after the fact.
Fire Giants at half health here, Taco. I see a lot of blue around it right now. Don't see very much red. That's going to be for another free Fire Giant going away at Splyce. I mean, CLG looked like they established some position over there, like they were willing to fight for it, but Splyce come in, clean it up, take the now they have all the sentry wards over there, and they just take the objective.
Splyce recognized that CLG did not want to fight over the Fire Giant. I don't think that that was CLG being unaware of Splyce wanting to take FG. I think that that was CLG forfeiting the Fire Giant because they didn't want to bother contesting. They don't want to risk losing another jungle team fight because they might suffer worse casualties should they look for that, and instead are just going to take their chances defending these Phoenixes.
And these Phoenix defenses have been tough, or the sieges rather, have been tough. It's easier for mages to kind of do damage over the wall, so that's something Hurriwind can try and do when they're back behind that wall, try and send some over and find some free poke, and for Jigz to be able to go in and try and find a big ultimate to pull in some members of Splyce as well. So these Phoenix defenses certainly can happen, but this Fire Giant now is going to be around the waist of all of Splyce, so it certainly won't be an easy task.
Mostly keeping an eye out for who Cyno chooses to go on with this Nemesis and the ultimate, because between Cyno and TheBest, a carry's getting one shot.
Oh, it's scary. Yeah, I mean, we saw it happen with Homiefe earlier in the game. When Cyno picks a target, they're very likely to die right now. I mean, CycloneSpin and TheBest are packing heat right now. It's scary trying to go up against those two, and as you said, with Cyno helping him out, it's not too bad. Divios has also shown that he can keep 3 to 4 members busy too, so it just comes down to who gets the better initiation here.
Dropping a sentry ward in the lane, they want to make sure that CLG isn't warding up to get vision on them because they want to surprise CLG. Splyce has the advantage right now, I would say, just because of the fact that they do have the Fire Giant buff to their favor, but Fire Giant has not been the greatest objective in Season 5. There's still a lot of room for defense here for CLG.
Well, the fight has started. Divios pushing Jigz to the right side of the fight, but jumping in immediately is Cyno. Sure, he's on the backside, and he's looking for Homiefe. Best gets a double kill, able to find both fineokay and Homiefe. Already a 5v3 in favor of the boys in blue. Gonna have to jump away here is Snoopy, and now their eyes turn back to the Phoenix. That was exactly the initiation that they were looking for.
They got everything they could have possibly wanted. A 3v5 automatically, just from a simple Nuwa ultimate combined with that Nemesis ultimate. Homiefe just did not stand a single chance of survival, and same could be said for fineokay. It's just so incredibly difficult to live through that initial burst damage.
Now they're going to turn their attention towards mid-Phoenix instead of going for the end here, and mid-Phoenix does fall. Jigz gets control for the moment, is able to jump away. Now they're trying to get some minions to push in here, and it looks like they are indeed going to try and make this end push happen here, Taco. Portal does come out, and they are able to take down Cyno. Hurriwind pushing back in as well. Looks like they're going to be able to stop that. I thought this was a good chance for Splyce maybe to get the end, but CLG with 3 members are making this defense happen. Jigz finds Aror.
And that's a huge pickup defense as well from CLG, just making sure that Splyce can't keep pushing into their Phoenix. They might be able to find TheBest in the process. Snoopy already jumping in, and Best nowhere left to run.
Divios instead just going to teleport out of there, so he is able to get back to safety, but he's one of the only ones who can claim that. Him and CycloneSpin both managed to avoid falling, but CLG catch them committing just a little bit too much underneath that Titan. They still got the Phoenix in duo. They still got the Phoenix in mid. Those are both down and will be weakened for the remainder of the game, but I'm sure they would have preferred not to get 3-man wiped as well.
Speaking of which, this could be a return mid-Phoenix for CLG. They're on the aggression, and for good reason, in a 3v5, or 2v5, excuse me. Cyno will be respawning shortly, though, and because of that, they're going to choose to fall back, but still getting that T1 tower and the T2 in mid lane. It's going to open up a little bit more map pressure, give CLG some more playroom just because they were able to push those fire waves so far back.
We are still a minute away from that Fire Giant respawning, Taco, so even though, yes, CLG are going to be able to get that Pyromancer for free, everyone from Splyce should be here to have the fight over that real big objective, which they can go for. Gold Fury going to go down to them as well.
The main concern here, though, is that Splyce needs to be incredibly careful when choosing to try and end against CLG's composition. With this Bakasura and Hou Yi, if they're able to hold those two ultimates and find a successful team wipe against Splyce, I think this could be CLG upsetting Splyce and taking this game for themselves.
No, that's a good point. Between, like you said, the Boxer and the Hou Yi, their damage against the structures is going to be really high, especially because Homiefe is built. I don't think he built anything that doesn't have attack speed on except for Bloodforge. I mean, he's ready to rock right now with his Bakasura build, so he'll be bringing a whole lot of extra damage with him too when they get on those structures. Either way, looks like once again CLG are not trying to be in position for this Fire Giant. It's just Splyce around it, and they're happy to try for another defense.
fineokay just trying to maintain vision onto Splyce, really just confirming for his team that, hey guys, they're at the Fire Giant right now. Let's push out the waves as much as possible, a mid and duo, and I like this choice from CLG as well to just shove those waves because it's annoying for Splyce. They can either let the fire creeps push by themselves and waste a little bit of time on that FG while they're trying to siege this solo side Phoenix, or they can send one member of their team and put themselves into the risk of a 4v5 situation just to get that wave pressure back in those lanes.
And I want to say, we're 34 minutes in here now. Everyone is 6 slotted from what I can see. Everyone just about level 20. Well, actually, everyone is level 20. There's really not a lead to speak of outside of the Fire Giant itself at this point, Taco. So these fights are very, very even.
This has been a very low kill count game, and the reason being is that both of these teams, their advantages have come simply from 1 or 2 picks.
Yeah.
That's really all it takes. At a competitive level, you can pressure an advantage quite well in these 4v3, 5v4 situations, and that's just the small opportunities that pro players know how to take.
Splyce trying to break up the defense here of CLG now. They're going in using those clay soldiers to try and take some of that aggro off of themselves. Going in for the ultimate there was Jigz, but didn't really get anyone off. It did take some cooldowns though, a lot of beads. Going to be waiting right now. They're going to have to just back up away for their mini-wave so they can try and push again.
The ricochet looked great from Snoopy because it landed, but didn't do much damage in the process. Speaking of which, Terra's Blessing has been popped. That means go. Cyno going to drop his ultimate just to make sure that Hurriwind is pushed all the way back.
Yeah, that's what Divios is doing. He's in the back trying to keep fineokay and Hurriwind busy. Not only have they defended this Phoenix on solo side, but their other 2 Phoenixes have respawned now. Sure, they're a little bit weaker, but they're back up. CLG are holding onto this defense, and Splyce cannot find a way into this base. One more time, they're going to give it a try here. They have the sprint going, so they have a little bit of extra movement speed to get in. Jigz is very low. Jigz going to have to jump away. Snoopy's going to jump away as well to try and avoid the stun coming from Aror. Now they can turn their attention towards the Phoenix.
Look at Homie. Look at Homie. He's coming in the backside. He's ready to go in. He's got his blink available. His ultimate is fully charged. But he's not going to take it. Not yet. They just lost so much health on their Titan because those fire creeps in the dual lane managed to work their way back up into the lane, and man, oh man, did they do a number on that Titan.
Yeah, that's going to be a big help for them, for that Phoenix just to fall in by drawing their attention over here to the solo lane side. Now they can afford to stick around and keep pushing. Homiefe still doing camps while this siege is happening. He'll have a chance to truly come in on the backside of this, but not before Aror finds Snoopy on the backside, trying to run away, but right into Bakasura. Hurriwind ends up getting credit for that one with a through space in time. Now the chomps are coming down. CycloneSpin is in trouble, and CycloneSpin is gone. Homiefe looking good on the Bakasura and looking for Aror as well, using the dash to get away. Finally, he falls to Divios, who can take care of the Bakasura.
Just not able to finish off that Terra. It's so unfortunate for Homiefe. You can tell how much he wanted it, even using his purification beats to get out of that Fearless from Divios, but the peel was just too much to handle. Divios, beautiful execution on saving the life of his teammate. Still, It's a 2-for-3 trade, and the only Phoenix that went down in the process is the one that CLG kind of just sacrificed.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, it's been about 10 minutes or so, if not longer, that Splyce have been trying to make this siege happen, and CLG have been patient. CLG have given up everything they can right up until they can no longer give it up, and then they make their defense, and they catch Splyce overcommitting. They find Cyno, Best, and CycloneSpin that last engagement, and yes, they lose Snoopy and Homiefe, but only after they force the boys of Splyce to back up. You're correct, that Phoenix over on the duo side did just fall. It'll be respawning shortly. Splyce gonna have to reset and retry.
And this just feels like a battle of the mid laners right now, and Hurriwind has been putting in work, sitting at nearly 40,000 player damage in a 37-minute climbing game. That is a lot for a Janus to be able to put out.
Well, look at that build he's got. Spear of Desolation and Obsidian Shard, the Soul Reaver and the Soul Gem. He's kind of doubled down on doing a bunch of damage to this game, and then the Chronos Pendant to make sure that he just has his abilities off cooldown as often as possible. He's swinging.
Right now, this feels more like a mind game than anything else between these two teams, because CLG constantly letting Splyce just take the Fire Giant for free. They don't want it. They clearly do not care whether or not they're able to actually get that Fire Giant. All that matters to them is wearing down Splyce little by little, and I'd say they've been pretty successful so far, considering the fact that that was a very strong Phoenix defense hold on their right-hand Phoenix, and the fact that Splyce wasn't even able to make a dent goes to show that CLG is definitely still in this.
And I think Homiefe was a big part of that too. He was so patient, Taco, waiting on Splyce to kind of forget about him. I don't want to say that they forgot about a whole member of the team, but there's so much happening in that team fight, they just couldn't keep an eye on him. He was able to come back in with that ultimate and really help turn that fight on its head. And yes, he was aided by the damage from Hurriwind, but they lost a little bit of track of him in that team fight, and he kind of helped make him pay.
In a sense, Phoenix defense is always going to go in favor of CLG, because you don't have to be the ones pushing outside of your Phoenix line anymore. That's one of the main reasons why sieging can become so difficult in Season 5, is that you're forcing the enemy team to commit to diving and looking for the kills. I would probably say that kills are a lot more important in getting underneath those Phoenixes as opposed to the structure itself. You don't really notice it too much as that Phoenix is whacking away, because it's typically onto your soul laner or your support player who's able to absorb all that damage. No, it's mostly about keeping your carries alive. And sure, Snoopy might have taken an early spill in that one, but the way that Homiefe was able to respond with this Bakasura is the most important part.
Phoenix has come back up for CLG now over there in that duo lane, Taco. It was the one that got taken by the fire minions while CLG focused on defending their solo lane tower. It's back up. It is in a weakened state, though. And I think that's going to be the call here from Splyce. Sometimes this will be a little bit easier. If they can get those two Phoenixes, the one in mid and the one in duo they already got, they may not even need to worry about that full health solo lane one. So they're going to give this plan a try. Grouping up in duo, try and see if they can force it down.
This is by far the weakest Phoenix right now for CLG. The mid Phoenix is healed as much as possible, having that half health perspective. Jigz going in though, doing the same thing as always. The Blink Cerberus ult, just trying to force out those early actives.
Now Divios is able to pull fineokay back into the rest of the team, but he's okay taking all that damage. Once again though, where's Homiefe? He's lurking on the sides of it, but he couldn't come in time. While for this weakened Phoenix, they were able to take this one out in duo lane. Time to regroup and head towards mid, but they don't really have the minions for it. They got to go back and bring that wave up.
And CLG were able to buy themselves enough time on that Phoenix, though, that half-health Titan is now back to practically full.
Yeah.
That is a huge benefit for CLG, especially in this defense that they're trying to play. They've got the pressure again in the dual lane side as well, so they're not going to have to worry about those fire creeps. But it seems as though Splyce isn't even prepared to try and shove it down mid just yet.
And you talked about the most important element of this defense, which is that CLG are very capable of ending if they get a wipe here, even like a 4-man wipe. I mean, they took down almost all the tier 2 towers already, so it's just going to be one Phoenix. Then they can go for the Titan if they make this defense. So Splyce are kind of on a balance, on a knife's edge at this point. If they lose a fight heavily, they might just lose the game.
I don't want to call it a hesitation factor, but Splyce is aware, and they
Through
are
space
scared.
and time blew him up, already up into the air. The best is very low, returns the favor though right back with his own ultimate. Homiefe comes back in and then does take down the best, so it's 1-for-1 mid laner for mid laner, but Splyce are the ones with their feet on the gas pedal. Divios controls Jigz and pulls him right back into the damage from Soul. Aror gets credit for that one, but Jigz is gone. 2 members have already fallen, 4 still standing for Splyce as they push down on the mid Phoenix. They may have lost the best, but they're not ready to lose the game.
And for CLG, everybody's just on to the full retreat. They're perfectly okay with giving up this mid-Phoenix one more time. It's not the first time they lost it. It certainly won't be the last. However, Splyce isn't ready to be done just yet. CycloneSpin getting that charged up soul passive. It's the Titan that they're after.
They've done a 3-man defense before. Can they do it again? Homiefe's here, fineokay here, and Snoopy's here. They don't have their ultimates yet, so they're going to have to get this done the old-fashioned way. Homiefe jumps into the back, but Homiefe gets blown up. CycloneSpin gets credit for that one. Now moving on to the Titan with only Snoopy and fineokay here to try and defend them. Titan at half health. The ultimate's dropping down on top of it. That's enough. Splyce take down CLG.
Gotta feel for CLG in that one as well. They were just so confident that they might have actually had the advantage for once, pushing outside of that Phoenix range in mid because of that huge ultimate from Hurriwind. And I think that through space and time might have just baited the team one step too far. Just the fact that New Wall ultimate was able to take out 2 members immediately, that hurt so much.
And the credit that I gave CLG that whole game, or really that you did, I was kind of questioning it, was their patience. They didn't overcommit onto the Fire Giant. They waited behind 40 minutes into that game. And then the first fight that they take outside the Phoenix, I mean, it doesn't go in their favor. I don't blame them, though. That through space and time, that was looking very tasty to follow that up, and it just didn't end up working.
It seemed as though they were going to have a free guaranteed kill onto the best, but getting up into the air bought them all the time they needed, and I'm pretty sure that Best will sacrifice himself every single time if it means that he can get out of this sieging portion of the game.
Well, we want to hear what you all think there in Mixer Chat. Who was the MVP of that game? Who made that one happen? Taco, I think you and I could probably talk about that game all night, but let's go ahead and get it over to Tom and Tolly on the desk. I know there's 2 people on a desk, Tom.
Thanks a lot, Finch. I'm Tom, standing here next to Tolly, and we've got the wrap-up for you. Fantastic stuff, and again, I really just want to reverberate what Taco said, that the new WA pick was really stellar.
TheBest really prefers this god. He always likes to play a little bit more careful, rely on his teammates to kind of make the plays and for him to follow up, especially when you take that much time away from a game competitively. You're better off just relying on your teammates to force anything going on objectively and just follow suit, especially when you're a mid laner. The yesteryear of Season 0, 1, and 2 that TheBest used to play relied on more mid-mages making those highlight and flashy plays, but this time around it's more team-centric, and that's exactly what happened to allow Splyce to find that victory.
Well, it's been a long time since we actually saw TheBest in competitive play, and your longtime teammate. What can you tell us about him, and what should we expect throughout the course of the season?
I think he's going to bring a very unique approach to the mid lane. I think that he has a different god pool originally compared to a lot of other mid laners, where a lot of people don't prefer New Wall competitively, whereas TheBest does, and that alone shows us what he's capable of in just the first game here in this best of 3. I think there's also outside factors besides TheBest, where you're looking at Divios specifically, another one of his teammates in the solo lane, bringing back Tier, a god that we haven't really seen a lot of at all towards the ending of Season 4. You know, he always comes back every now and then, and people are just reminded of how powerful he really can be, especially in the beginning of the game when he got tower dove by the Homiefe Bakasura, and he just performed pretty well there.
Divios winning the MVP right there and doing very, very well. You know, the way that the tier was able to really make things happen was a lot of fun to watch. Grouping up players, minions alike. I mean, that's tier, it's what he does, and it's kind of scary when given into the right hands. Either way, that win goes the way of Splyce. So CLG, I think, was the default top card. I think a lot of people came in here kind of expecting CLG to sort of go ahead and just sort of win. But Splyce, I told you people, I told a lot of people at home that there was going to be some fire on this roster.
Especially Cyno, sure. He did a great job playing the Nemesis. He shut down Snoopy at one point where he made that early gank in the duo lane, which allowed CycloneSpin to kind of, you know, get reestablish dominance in that lane, and playing the Soul, another great god in terms of being able to clear the towers, melt some of the objectives. Splyce got ahead in terms of the towers, got ahead in terms of the Fire Giant, and they had a better siege composition. Very difficult for Homiefe to really go around and next to the best. Like we were talking about pre-game, the clay golems, the shining metal, very annoying for the backline penetrators.
Yeah, once you drop those minions, it's the threat of activation that can be even more devastating than actually the activation itself. So nice stuff coming out from the Splyce guys here. Looking for game number 2, CLG needs to make some changes because right now they just didn't have control over the game. They didn't have control over their buffs either.
It seems that Splyce was actually, they were getting invaded on a little bit here towards the red buff, but that didn't matter because objectively they were a better suit for securing the victory. They grouped up way better. Homiefe was almost a non-factor playing that Bakasura, unfortunately.
Yeah, a little bit rough there for the Iron Homie. So going in here, besides the Bakasura pick, because it sounds like you do want that to be changed, where does CLG go to find the victory?
I think that they need to kind of lean on the dual lane a little bit harder. Cyno made that first strike, I would say, in the dual lane to shut down Snoopy. It needs to be Homiefe doing the same to CycloneSpin instead of trying to tower dive Divios' tier.